You want me to throw one up? All right, I'm going to throw one up. I'm going to throw one up that you probably heard of because it's award season, but I just don't feel like people are talking about it enough. And it was a series that some people might not have hung in there because they're like, oh, I don't know. I thought he was supposed to be a comedian, but this is kind of getting dark. And then it got a little bit violent. And like, wait, but it's violent, but this is made by Alec Berg, who's helped with Silicon Valley. And then you got freaking... This show has everything. It has Hitman. It has an angry Fonzie.
I love Stefan. He's the greatest.
And that's why you should be watching Barry. And even just Mario, we talked about this a couple of years ago, that people were getting rid of opening credits. Mike, shout out to Mike. Mike, when we do another part of this show, we're going to have Mike on here because Mike's the one that turned me on to Mr. Robot, another show that I've never watched, and it pulled me instantly, and I was like, how would I have not watched this? But Mr. Robot did this. It's just the Flash, that hustle and flow lyric that just drops up, and that's the opening credits.
Yeah, I love that. And there's the way Atlanta does it. Do you watch Atlanta?
Yeah, Atlanta does it too.
They just sort of build it into the frame of the shot.
Oh, yes. It's so good when he does that. And Barry always does that. And this season, they even started doing, after the show, they watch what's going to come up next week. And they would literally show something out of context for like 5 seconds. And then it's like, bam! And like, you're going to have to watch this. But Bill Hader booked himself, and I'm going to keep this spoiler free because I want you guys to really enjoy it. Season 3 just ended. Premise is Bill Hader is a hitman who's having a crisis of consciousness in LA, and he decides to become, well, he doesn't decide to. He falls into, I should be an actor. And Henry Winkler is his acting coach. And it's just so good. That's
interesting.
Yeah,
I just finished it last night. Actually.
Oh, you did finish
I'll try
it?
to do no spoilers, but I'll try to click them
It's
out.
difficult to do spoilers, but Mario, you can agree with me. He booked himself into a corner where you're like, I don't know where he can go. Like, where? How
You mean
does
at
he
the ending?
Yeah. Well, no. The ending was just like, you really saw that. You don't know where else you can go with this. I mean, it's a violent show. It has violence, but it has comedy at the same time. But he really booked himself as just like, this is not going to end in a neat little bow to the show. You're like, okay, cool, Barry. You're like, oh, freak, Barry. What the hell, man? But
I mean, this season is dark.
Yeah, it's
extremely dark. And you can tell this was written and executed by folks who were pent up in their houses for months, not able to go outside without toilet paper. So they wrote this show, and then they made it, and now they're making us watch it. But it's angry. Like, from the first scene... The very first scene of the show, you can tell it's completely different than the last season.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, no, it's every season is a complete different jump because he has no choice because he books himself into these binary parts where he has to choose a direction.
Yeah.
And even though he's a character that lives in the gray area, he books himself that he has to go in these different directions, and that's why this season had to get a little darker. Yeah, Mike said it. NoHo Hank is one of the best TV characters of all time. Give me a spinoff. Yeah, I'm to the point where it's just like this show is like one great season away from being spoken in the same vein as Breaking Bad.
Wow.
I'm gonna say it.
Wow.
And we know that's iconic TV.
Sure, yeah.
But I feel like Bill Hader, who knew, man? He's so good. I mean, everything about him. Just like his performance, and I feel like we've always had that with comedians, right? Like people knew, it's just like, oh, we knew Robin Williams could do 1 hour photo. You knew he was going to get dark, right? Because he had that dark side to him. So you figured Bill Hader had this in him to pull this off, and it's great.
Well, he did a movie with Kristen Wiig called Skeleton Twins. I think.
Yes,
and that really, I was like, how is this going to work? These two, SNL, people. And I mean, they really acted their butts off there.
They did. Yeah, she and Kristen Wiig is the female version. Like, I'm waiting for her to have that moment, type of moment. But a hitman actor and a Fonzie comeback.
Always great to see him.
Henry Winkler is so good in this. He is so good in this. Mike said Barry's one of those performances that make you reframe all of Bill Hader's other roles, and I agree.
Yeah, and take this into account. He's directing a bunch of those episodes.
He directed,
Wow.
he directed the finale, which just dropped. And then what's his name? Stephen from
Stephen Root.
Stephen Root, yeah, Red Stapler, from Office Space, to be basically his handler for the hitman handler, if you will, his manager. He's the Bobby the Brain Heenan for him. So yeah, just like all the bookings of all the characters in this, and oh man, the Chechen mob, and then all the side stories, everything about it is just, it's great. Highly recommended.
Nice.
You should watch Barry immediately. 30-minute episodes to make it. You're binging on a water slide, baby.
Love it,
You're
yeah.
just
That binge
going
flies by.
Yeah,
I watched it all last night in preparation for this show.
Yeah, it was so good. So I don't know if there's anything you want to add, because I don't want to get too deep into spoilers. I just want YouTube world to appreciate these shows and see our enthusiasm, if you will. I don't know if there's anything you want to add on there, Mario.
I mean, definitely check it out. It's what I like about it is that's been building over the last 3 seasons. And like you said, it's going to end badly eventually.
Yeah.
But Barry, by this point in the story, is so stressed out.
Oh yeah, you
So
feel
completely
it.
stressed out, but at the same time, still booking acting jobs.
That's what's crazy.
And he does. There's that one scene where he just goes in there and kind of like shoots straight with them. And they love it, and it's just like every time he has a breakdown and goes into full on I'm just a hitman having a nervous breakdown mode. He books another job.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's amazing that he, like you said, he's still booking work as he's booked, and this has been since season 1. He booked himself into position at the finale of season 1. You're like, well, there's no turning back now, and then it just continues.
Wow.
And I think what's interesting that I like about it is how it's framed with, you've got Barry and he's with the mob and he's a hitman and he kills people and he's involved in that whole underworld, but that's just against the whole working in Hollywood underworld.
Yeah.
And people trying to make it, and they're both kind of like awful, like all the way through,
Oh yeah, yeah, exactly. You're very right. They're dealing with dirty birds on both sides.